Okay.
Sounds good.
So I'm here with Lee from Aurora Ford.
Yes.
And first of all, Lee, you have an electric vehicle charger here, and this is how I came to be here. As you know, I'm on a trip to the far north to Yellowknife, and then we'll be back and seeing you possibly on Thursday or Friday.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit more about, you were talking earlier about what it means to be a Ford EV dealer. Tell me why you did it and what you're thinking about for the future.
Yeah, so with Ford, now just to clarify, I'm with Go Auto, so we actually look after 4 stores up here in the territories. This one, the Ford store in Yellowknife, and the Dodge store in Yellowknife. So I look after all 3 of those, and we have a heavy truck operation, a Freightliner and Western Star. So with Ford specifically, a couple of years ago, they came out with their EV plan, and they had they'd given us an option to sign up fully or to defer it for a couple of years, because they recognized that some markets, like us up here, may be a little bit slower or more difficult to adopt EV charging infrastructure in the sales. So we deferred at that time. So we were allowed to sell EV vehicles up until the end of 2023, and then we have an option again to sign up next year, which we likely will, as things have kind of with the charging infrastructure, the pricing and the installation has come to a more reasonable dollar amount now, so it makes more sense for us to do it. That was one of Ford's biggest requirements, was to have a customer-facing level 3 DC fast charging stations, and those at the start were very expensive, and they're getting more reasonable.
Right. Well, there's more competition for, just with all the EVs, there's more competition because there's it's becoming more of a trend. Definitely, as people see that it's the future.
Yeah.
And the Northwest Territory government is putting in 3 EV fast chargers in Betchco, Fort Providence, and
just outside of Enterprise.
And Enterprise, that's right. So, I wish they were there now, but this, at least now, I can still do it, and thanks to your help and some other dealerships. There's the Ford dealership in Peace River that helped me with the EV charging, and there's a dealership in High Level that has a level 3 charger. The Chevy dealer there.
Yeah, so some of the manufacturers, the Dodge store in Yellowknife too, will have a level 3 charger. It's not installed yet, but it should be shortly. It's also, we didn't have the option to defer that, so that will be fully EV certified here shortly. So it's getting there, the infrastructure, and it's important, these ones on the highway, because otherwise it's 476 kilometers from Hay River to Yellowknife.
Right.
So without a level 3 charger between, it takes an extra day.
Right.
Because at level 3, you can at least charge a vehicle in less than an hour, or to 80%.
Right. But there's not even a level 2 charger between here and Yellowknife. So in my case, I'm prepared to camp at the Fort Providence Territorial Park, the RV park, and there they have 30 amp outlets that I can charge.
Yeah, and that gentleman I was mentioning that came through with the Hyundai electric vehicle, he was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
He was going to stop in Providence to get enough of a charge to get him to Yellowknife.
That's right.
Because I suspect the range, 475 kilometers, is probably the very top of the range on probably 90% of the EV vehicles out there today.
Yeah, and my range right now is about 340, 350.
Yeah.
So, when you're going to a place that's like even from High Level to here, which is 311 or 312, it's you don't want to take any chances, and you don't want to have to put it too tight, because you get a big headwind, which I did get, by the way, going from Peace River to High Level. Oh,
okay. So your range dropped a little bit.
Well, what I did to compensate is just go a little slower.
Yeah.
So you're not pushing so much air so much. So
that's
just, there's lots of ways to drive an EV so you can be more fuel efficient, just the way you drive.
Yeah, a lot of people really want to get an EV or to be a part of that. Until the infrastructure, especially for us up here, catches up to it.
Yeah.
It's slowing things down a little bit, just because of these challenges moving between communities.
Yeah.
In the cities, in the bigger areas where 98% of your driving is done within in city limits,
Right.
it's much easier to adopt that technology. Up here, if you're restricted to not being able to leave Hay River, it limits the
That's right. And you may be 95% of the time in Hay River driving around town. But if you have let's say you're a parent with a hockey player and they have to go to high level,
Right.
it's a real stretch for them to go in an electric vehicle,
Yeah.
especially in the wintertime.
So we've seen a lot on the hybrids have been popular, and the plug-in hybrids are popular here because at least you have that ability to travel long distances. You've got that gas engine and once your
Right.
charge expires. So those have been popular. There's a new vehicle coming out on the Dodge side this summer, which has got it's an electric truck like our F-150,
Right.
but it has an engine that it will use to charge the battery should the battery deplete.
That's exactly what excuse me, diesel electric car trains.
Is
That's
that
exactly
same
what they
type
do.
of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they have electric motors because they develop so much torque, but they have the diesel generators. That's what you hear when you listen
Yeah.
to a train go by, but that's what it is. It's a diesel electric powertrain.
Yeah, so I think that could be a good option for people up here.
It makes a lot of sense.
So it's got a V6 engine in it, and the V6 engine does not power the drivetrain at all.
Right.
It's only there to charge the.
Actually, when I was in Vancouver, there's a annual auto show.
Yeah.
And there was I forget the name of the company, but they had a big huge rig, like for using for mining or something, like, or hauling stuff.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing. They're having a diesel engine powering a generator to power the batteries. And I don't know if you heard of Sandy Monroe, but he's he's an engineer. He used to work for Ford actually.
Oh, okay.
For like 30, he was a senior engineer, and now he tears apart cars and gives the respective manufacturers ways to make their cars more efficient, more better. He analyzes everything, and he did that for Tesla and the Ford Hummer and the GM Hummer and a lot of other vehicles. And that's what he's doing now. And he has a YouTube channel, and it's very popular.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think these options. One of the things that frustrates me and probably some other dealers is when they were looking at adopting the EV standards, they went right from internal combustion engines to try to force everybody to go straight electric. And I think, with the exception of maybe Toyota Motor Company, everybody was looking at this straight electric, and now they're realizing we might have to get there in a couple of stages.
Yeah.
Especially in a Canada with as remote and expansive as country as remote and expansive as Canada. So they're realizing that these plug-in hybrids are become more popular, and they should have had maybe some more development on that to kind of try to stagger this switch.
But I really like that idea that you mentioned about the Chrysler, or is it a Ram vehicle?
It's a Ram. They call it a Ram Charger. It's very similar to the F-150. It's the new 2025 Ram 1500, so the half ton. It's not available yet, and we haven't seen details of pricing and range and anything like that.
Right.
But it's supposed to be out later this summer, and I think that could be a good option. Again, like you're mentioning, it does defeat the purpose of the electric vehicle a little bit, but it does give you that option if you need to travel or there's no charging infrastructure between your two destinations.
But what's really cool, sorry to interrupt, but what's really cool is that it doesn't need to put in a transmission.
Yes.
And it doesn't need to put in a lot of the systems that you would normally need to use for a regular hybrid or a plug-in hybrid.
That's true.
And so having it as really a true electric powertrain and using the V6 or whatever it is to power the generator for the battery, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. We were actually looking to see if there was some kind of option that you could have added to the F-150 trucks where you could have even add like a generator pack in the back that you could tie in to charge. Similar type of idea. If you started running low on range, and you could turn on a supplemental motor in the back to charge the battery. There's no option for that yet, but that, and those are only to be used in circumstances where there was no infrastructure, or you came across a charging station and it was out of service for whatever reason, or there was a problem with it.
Right.
It would give you it would stop that range anxiety that people have, or that worry that you're not going to be able to
Yeah.
To get to where you're going.
I've had a few of those
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah, and you will, and I drove the Lightning truck for a little while when it first came in, and it was a great vehicle for around town. We did have problems up here when it gets super cold, probably minus 35, which we see a little bit. The truck
That's
just
cold.
wouldn't accept the charge anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it would flash, and we'd have to bring it inside to warm it up, and then
Right.
it was okay. And they had problems with the chargers in Yellowknife too when it hit that cold. But
Right.
again, that's unique for us up here, and that's pretty cool. And we do hit that, but not
Yeah.
for.
But when you're at minus 35 too, you have issues with ice vehicles too.
Oh, for sure you do. That's what I said. The nice thing with the electric is you don't have to worry about it not starting. It's always there.
That's
Maybe a little slower to produce heat when it's that cold. The range drops, obviously.
Yeah.
But the charger wasn't. That was the difficulty, was it wouldn't accept the charge.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we have a charger rated for cold enough temperatures, and I think that's one of the problems. Is I don't know that people realize that certain chargers are only rated to certain temperatures.
Right.
You have to make sure you've got the right.
Okay. I'm going to ask you one final question.
Yeah.
What is do you have a strong optimism for this electric transformation in the far north?
I didn't. I for the longest time I thought it was honestly too far away and the technology wasn't there, but it has come along a little bit. And if the manufacturers are able to come with some bridge products, I'll call them, like the truck
Yes.
that charges
Yeah,
itself,
no,
or a
that's very
plug-in
cool.
hybrid,
Yeah.
I think that will help speed up the adoption here.
Right.
Because it does give people that you don't have to go full electric. You can have almost the best of both worlds for a little while until the infrastructure is there.
Right.
But the technology is moving so rapidly that I do see a point in the not so distant future where
Right.
we'll get there. I think the vehicles are good. The performance is where it needs to be. The vehicle quality is where it needs to be. There's a lot of really good things. The only negative has been the infrastructure, and that will come. The speed of charging can be a challenge too, but once that infrastructure is there and that eliminates some of that, then that'll help move it along quickly too.
That's great.
Yeah, I know lots of people use them all the time in the city with no issues. Love them.
They love them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to mention that the performance when you're driving them, that
Yeah.
instant acceleration is a joy.
Oh, it is. And we're unique up here, so we're going to have probably a different viewpoint than 95% of the rest of the country as to where we're located and our extreme temperatures and distances.
Yeah.
We're unlike most of the rest of the continent, so
Yeah.
we would probably be the last to get there.
Yeah.
But I still think I see the time coming when there's going to be that's going to happen for
That's
sure.
great. Well, it's really been a true pleasure to talk to you and listen to your points of view from a person from the north.
Yeah.
And it's making my trip and Teresa's trip a joy as well to be up here. And I've been dreaming about being up here for 3 years and watching the infrastructure
Nice.
grow.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you personally for allowing electric vehicle drivers to use your charging here.
Oh yeah, no
And
problem.
I'll be back in a few days to use it again.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
that sounds good. Thank you for stopping by.
Okay, very good.
That was great.